where you scream to watch that, watch this, and I'll dive down through this hairy flesh.
Welcome to Watch This. I'm CJ Johnson. In 1981, the extremely young New Zealand film industry, if you could even call it a film industry, was revolutionised by the film Goodbye Pork Pie. It was the first homegrown hit, and it grossed, at the time, a staggering 1.4 million New Zealand dollars. That translates with inflation to about 10 million New Zealand dollars today, which is still a large take at the New Zealand box office for a locally produced feature film. That film was co-written and directed by a gentleman named Geoff Murphy. Now, his son, Matt Murphy, has written and directed a remake or reimagining called simply Pork Pie. And Matt Murphy and his producer, Tom Hern, join me to talk about that film.
I've got a problem with the car. I think she might be overheating. Bro, you got a death wish.
So, Matt, your dad co-wrote and directed Goodbye Pork Pie. How in the world did you come to write and direct this reimagining? It's a rare event.
Yeah, it is. In a way, it came out of the blue, actually, because it wasn't forefront for me to do that. But I was looking around for a film project, and someone actually suggested it to me as a remake or a sequel. I thought about it for about 10 minutes, and I went, wow, they actually, it wouldn't have occurred to me, but when it did, I thought it was a fantastic idea. So I sort of jumped onto it from that point onwards and set about writing a treatment for it that grew into a screenplay, yeah.
It's a nice film to go back to because it kind of has all the elements, bizarrely enough. It's got a couple of love stories, it's got action, it's got romance, it's got comedy. It's kind of a no-brainer in a way when you think about it. It's really interesting that it was one of the very, very first films New Zealand ever made.
Yes.
The original.
Yeah. I think it was in about 3 films made at that time in the late 70s, and it was, yeah, definitely one of the original kickstarts to the New Zealand film industry, yeah. That was the journey in writing it. It was like, how much do I want to depart from it? What's crucial? What makes that story work that I should keep, and what needs reinventing and all that? That was the journey in writing it. And that took a while to work out, actually, because 1979 and 2016 are completely different eras. So it took a while to kind of go, okay, well, that's a bit, we can leave that behind and we can reinvent this. And I like to say it was kind of inspired by the original film, but it's got its own story as well because it needed that. But definitely some key plot points, some sort of turning moments in the movie we had to keep some of those key ones, yeah, definitely.
There are a couple of things that have really specifically changed, like there are some sexual politics in the first film that you obviously had to jettison in terms of the relationship between the two younger characters. Yeah. And there's also, the whole way you approach drug smoking.
Right.
You needed to nod your head to it, tip your cap to it, but you had to do it differently.
Yeah, I guess with a female character, it was actually, at one point I considered not having one because I didn't want a token character in the mini. Like the drama in the mini needed to be solid for all 3. And so then it became about, well, she's got to be as strong as the boys. And that was for the drama's sake as well as the politics. So that was kind of instrumental in that, yeah. She's kind of like an antagonist and she steers the journey as much as the boys do on occasion, so yeah.
And in this film, she's a political activist, and that is a really strong driving force underneath her character. Now, of course, one of the huge things that's changed is technology and specifically social media.
Yep.
And I imagine the Hollywood version of this film, it would have become about social media. Right. About how the country or the world is following these people.
Yeah.
And you've got that in your film because you can't avoid it. But I found it was with a light touch. Did you wrestle with how much social media and how much technology to put in?
Yes, because, on the run in this day and age, you kind of have to justify all those things. But I think fundamental was the drama inside the car. So whether it be social media or car chases, action, police, or whatever it was, I realised a couple of drafts into the script that my story needed to happen within inside the Mini, foremost. And so that kind of, everything just hinged off that. So when social media came in or an action sequence came in, it was about what was going on inside the car and a reaction to that. Yeah.
So tell us about shooting in the car. I mean, I don't know, but it seems like a third to a half of this film takes place inside one of the smaller cars ever built.
Yeah, that was. Look, we did a lot of work on that process. Look, there's the film was, everything's moving the whole time. You know, we're on a car, we're moving through streets, car chases and stuff. So we had various minis that we put platforms on. And
so where are you sitting? Where does it look
sometimes
like?
in the back seat like this. Like it was just cramming and get it done. We didn't have massive budget, so it was, it was a bit, just run with it, do what you can. We just had to work out how to do it. And we had platforms. We often had the cameraman on the side of the car, shooting in through the window. Yeah. We had 3 different modes of Mini.
Right.
Yeah.
Tom, this is your 4th feature film that you've produced. Yeah. But you were born in the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
So this film was released in cinemas before you were born. The original, Goodbye Pork Pie.
That's right, yeah. So when Matt, came to me with his screenplay for Pork Pie, I was very much just, first and foremost, reading it as its own project, without, I guess, the baggage or the hang-ups of the original film. And I knew, of course, about Goodbye Pork Pie and knew that it was such a pioneering and sort of important film in the start of, our New Zealand filmmaking culture, if you like. But yeah, I hadn't actually really watched it since I was a little kid. And I actually, when I read Matt's script, I actually tried to prevent myself from watching the original film for as long as possible. So I always sort of came at it with that freshness, which I think was a good balance, yeah.
But I've got to ask you about shooting the big car chase set pieces in the towns. I mean, one of them's in Wellington, downtown Wellington. Feels to me that Wellington's not that big. It feels to me that car chase takes longer than it could actually take. You know what I mean? It's like a 7-minute scene or something.
Yeah.
I mean, given a limited budget, given your resources, that is a pretty astounding sequence to have pulled off. How many days did that take?
3 weekends, I think we did it across. In the end, the whole thing. And
2 for the car chase.
And 2 for the car chase, 1 for the
railway station.
Train station. Yeah. But we were actually competing with Ghost in the Shell. We're shooting in Wellington at the same time, actually. Yeah. But yeah, no, Wellington was so supportive of the film because it's an iconic sequence from the original film as well that takes place in Wellington. Yeah. So they really got behind it, and it was awesome. Yeah,
well, it's a lovely film. Besides humour and romance, I mean, it's full of heart. It just wears its heart on its sleeve the entire way, and I think that's its big selling point, is you can't help but smile by the end. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for coming on Watch This.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for joining me on Watch This. I got to tell you, I really, really enjoyed Pork Pie. It's fun, it's charming, it's witty. The New Zealand scenery is absolutely spectacular. But as I say, it's just got a lot of heart. It's one of those nice, feel-good movies where by the end of the film, you've come to love the characters so much, you'd just like to hang out with them even more. In fact, if they made a TV series following the adventures of these 3 larrikins, I would tune in. It opens in Australia on May 4th.
Watch this, and I'll die.